Hi, I'm Tony, and 11 years ago I left the UK to travel around the world. I spent the first 2 years travelling around Europe and down through Africa on my motorbike. Then I spent a year in Australia before heading into Southeast Asia with my bicycle. Now that the coronavirus restrictions have calmed down, I'm travelling around South America. Hi guys, welcome to my first vlog bikepacking through South America. Before I left, I had to pack my bike ready for the flight. I haven't packed a bike like this for a long time, so it was kind of tricky getting everything to fit, but eventually I managed it. Bringing the bike with me on the plane is much cheaper than international shipping. Flying it from Manchester to Santiago de Chile only cost me around $30. Entering Chile as the coronavirus restrictions are winding down wasn't all that tricky. There were only 4 things that I needed to prepare before I arrived. The first thing was registering my vaccines online. This was so that the Chilean government could give me a vaccine passport. You're supposed to use these if you're going into a restaurant or other public area, but I've only been asked for it once in the whole time that I've been here. The second requirement was filling in a C19 form online. This is just a record of your personal information so that the government can track you down if you do get coronavirus. The third requirement was health insurance. It needs to cover you for $30,000. Make sure that it covers coronavirus and repatriation to your home country if you get the virus. I managed to find some online that was pretty cheap from a company called Visitors Coverage. It cost me about $40 for 2 months. The last requirement wasn't actually for coronavirus, it's just a normal visa requirement for entering Chile, but I haven't had to deal with this before. It was basically to have an onward ticket, just to prove that you are planning to leave the country. They didn't actually ask me for this when I was entering Chile, but as I was boarding my last flight to come here, so they wouldn't actually let me on the plane unless I could show them an onward ticket. So I quickly jumped online and booked a bus ticket from Chile to Bolivia, and then I cancelled that ticket after I arrived to get a refund. Going through immigration was pretty easy for me as a UK citizen. I just gave them my passport and got the stamp for a free 3-month tourist visa on arrival. However, 2 hours after I landed, Hung arrived, and as she was going through immigration, she got stopped for further checks. They took her into a side office and looked at her passport under UV lights to make sure it was real. Then they went and got all of her luggage and searched through everything. Admittedly, Vietnamese passports are quite basic, so maybe they thought it was fake. However, as a Vietnamese citizen, Chile is one of the few countries that she could come to without having to get a visa before she came, so it wasn't really the best welcome to Chile. Meanwhile, I was sitting in arrivals waiting for her to come through. I've watched a lot of these border force style programs, so I was a bit paranoid, thinking that they were going to reject her and that she was going to be sent back to Vietnam. But luckily, after about 30 minutes or so, they released her and everything was fine. Santiago is a really nice city. I'm not sure what I was expecting before I arrived, but as you walk around, everything feels really European. We stayed in Santiago for about a week and stayed with a few different couchsurfing hosts while we were there. I'd definitely recommend couchsurfing to any backpackers or travelers. Okay, yeah, you do get free accommodation, but the main thing is the hosts. So it's really good to meet local people and see the city from a different perspective, as the local people who live there would see things. Our first host was somebody called Byron. He was really welcoming and friendly and helped us get to use the metro system to get around town. Also at the weekend, he took us to the Persian market. It's a really cool market that just runs on the weekends, and they sell antiques and all different kinds of things there. So we walked around for a while and then we had a meal together. And one evening we hiked up a hill in the middle of the city to watch the sunset. Another cool thing to see in Santiago is the open air museum. It's basically a few streets where the apartment buildings have been decorated with big murals and graffiti. It's quite cool to walk around there for an hour or so and take some pictures. From Santiago, we were heading to a coastal city called Vina del Mar. There were a couple of different routes to choose from. One was reasonably flat and the other one went through the mountains. So after speaking to a couple of our couchsurfing hosts, we actually chose the mountain route because it was supposed to be more beautiful. It wasn't too hard, however, on the second day when we were going up through the mountains sometime in the early evening, we tried to look for somebody to hitch a lift so that we could get to the top of the hill. Luckily, a really friendly guy stopped and offered to give us a lift. He not only took us over the hill, but then tried to find a place for us to camp for the night. Unfortunately, the campsites were all closed because it's winter time here in Chile, but he then offered to let us stay with his family. Not only that, but the next morning he was actually working in Vina del Mar, so he offered to take us the rest of the way the next morning. Meeting people like this as we've been traveling around is really cool. It's one of the things I enjoy most about traveling, just being reminded that there are really kind, generous people out there. Vina del Mar is a coastal town that's really popular for holidays, so there's a lot of restaurants and hotels on the beach. It's also on a big bay, and in the south side of that bay there's an older city called Valparaiso. Valparaiso, being a port city, has a bit of a reputation for pickpocketing and mugging, but while we were there we didn't have any trouble at all. The city is built on several big hills and there are old funiculars to take people up and down the steepest parts. In Valparaiso, we stayed with a couchsurfing host who runs a sustainable tourism company. So he organised a walking tour for us. So we went around a few of the different hills in the city and saw some of the different sights and some people busking in different ways. There was one really cool guy who had a puppet that was miming along to the music of a famous musician here. I can't play the audio here on YouTube, but if you go to my Instagram, you'll see one of the reels on there is this guy and his puppet. It's really cool. Take a look. In exchange for staying in this couchsurfer's house, he asked us to spend a couple of hours doing some work in his neighborhood. So on my final weekend in Valparaiso, I was painting over graffiti in the neighborhood. This was a really good exchange and I actually enjoyed doing it. So as my second week in Chile came to an end, I was painting over the graffiti. It's pretty cold here in Chile now, so the plan is to keep heading north and hopefully find some warmer weather. I'll be back next week with another vlog, so I'll let you know how that goes. So please like, share and subscribe to stay up to date with my progress as I keep bikepacking through South America.